You know, when we think about extinct animals, we usually feel a little sad, a sense of loss. But what if some extinctions were actually a good thing? So today, we're taking a tour of some real prehistoric nightmares, creatures so terrifying we can all breathe a huge sigh of relief that they are long, long gone.
And that really brings up a fascinating question. We're taught that extinction is this terrible tragedy, a loss of biodiversity. And most of the time, it is. But is it always a bad thing? Could it be that sometimes an animal going extinct is actually good for the planet, and especially good for us?
The source material we're looking at today really puts it perfectly. While we should absolutely fight to preserve the species we have now, there sure were some that we're glad went extinct long ago. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into. So, let's get started.
First up, we're plunging right into the ancient oceans, a place that was, believe me, way more terrifying than you could ever imagine. Okay, just picture this for a second. You're in the ocean. You see a shark. Scary, right? For sure. Now, what if that shark had a literal buzzsaw for a mouth? It sounds completely made up like something from a monster movie, but I promise you, it was very, very real.
Meet the Helicoprion. Its jaw was one of nature's craziest puzzles. See, this thing didn't lose its old teeth like other sharks. No, as new ones grew in, they just pushed the old ones forward, curling them up into this horrifying spiral saw of teeth and bone. Scientists were stumped by this for like a century, and honestly, can you blame them?
But the bizarre ocean predators do not stop there. Think about the top of the food chain today. Lions, orcas. Well, way back in the Cambrian period, about 500 million years ago, the very first true apex predator was, get this, a 6-foot-long shrimp.
Just look at this thing. The Anomalocaris was no shrimp cocktail, I'll tell you that. It had this huge, monstrous body, and even crazier, it had tentacles with teeth in them. This was the undisputed king of its world. So yeah, next time you see a shrimp, just be thankful they're bite-sized now.
All right, let's climb out of the terrifying deep and see what kind of horrors were crawling and flying across the ancient world.
If you're not a fan of bugs, you might want to brace yourself. This is Arthropleura, a giant millipede about the size of a small car. And this quote from the source just sends a shiver down my spine. They could probably rear into an upright posture and look you straight in the eyes. Just imagine that. A 6-foot-tall millipede staring you down. Yeah, no thanks.
Next up, we have the snake to end all snakes, Titanoboa. This monster lived about 60 million years ago, right after the dinosaurs died out. It could grow up to 42 feet long. That's longer than a school bus, and it weighed a staggering 2,500 pounds. To a creature this huge, a human wouldn't even be a meal. We'd be a light snack.
And the giants weren't just slithering on the ground. Meet Argentavis, the largest flying bird ever. To give you some perspective, the modern albatross has the biggest wingspan of any bird alive today at around 11 feet, while Argentavis had a wingspan of over 20 feet. When it stood on the ground, it was as tall as a person. Can you imagine that shadow passing over you?
So while Argentavis was ruling the skies, on the ground, another bird was in charge. These were the terror birds, and honestly, the name says it all. Officially, they're called Forus rockidae, and they were 10-foot-tall, flightless killers. Their weapon of choice? A beak so massive and powerful it could kill its prey with a single, skull-shattering blow. They were the top predators in the Americas for millions of years.
Okay, we've seen some serious contenders, but now we're moving into the heavyweight division. Let's look at two of the most dominant carnivores to have ever walked the earth and swam its seas. So, think of the biggest, scariest bear you can imagine. You're probably picturing a polar bear, right? The largest land carnivore alive today. Now meet the Archaeopteryx, or the short-faced bear. It was a whopping 50% larger. This was a true giant that roamed North America until about 11,000 years ago, which, geologically speaking, is terrifyingly recent.
And to keep that massive body going, its appetite was just as huge. This bear needed to eat around 35 pounds of meat every single day. That's like eating a small deer for breakfast. It wasn't just a predator, it was a relentless eating machine.
But there's one creature whose name is basically synonymous with prehistoric terror. I think you know what's coming. And finally, the undisputed king of the prehistoric oceans. The megalodon, a shark that could grow up to an estimated 60 feet in length. That is 3 times the size of the biggest great white sharks swimming in our oceans today. This wasn't just some big fish. It was one of the most powerful carnivores in the history of the planet.
I mean, just look at these facts. Its jaws were so enormous they could swallow a person whole, without even chewing. Its main prey wasn't tuna, it was whales. It hunted whales. Thankfully for, well, all of us, it vanished about 3.6 million years ago. A true monster of the deep.
So, after this tour through a real-life monster movie, it's pretty clear these extinctions have shaped our world into a much, much less threatening place.
In the end, these creatures were magnificent in their own terrifying way. They were powerful, they were awe-inspiring, and they were, frankly, just too big and too predatory for the world that was coming. A world that would one day have us in it. In a very real way, their absence made our presence possible.
And that leaves us with one final, thought-provoking question to chew on. Looking at our world today, with all of its own powerful predators and giant creatures, what modern animals do you think a future world might be glad are gone? It's a fascinating and kind of uncomfortable thing to think about. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this trip through time, subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and hit that bell so you don't miss new videos.